Hi everyone, I'm Per Björkling and I'm a double bass player from Sweden. And welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video I'll talk about shifting and how to get a loose and smooth left hand while playing the double bass. Having a loose left hand is vital for intonation, accuracy in your shift, vibrato, and for stamina. You're gonna get tired real quickly if your left hand is tight, and your vibrato will be too fast and narrow and unable to change in speed and width, and your hand will be slower to adjusting to the right pitch after your shift. My general idea about the left hand is that it should always be loose and that you should close the notes by using the weight of your left arm, not squeezing your fingers together. So you should always let your left arm just rest and hang and use that weight to push down the string. The first step to get a loose left hand is to completely remove your thumb from the neck and practice like that. That way you cannot squeeze your fingers together to push down the string. You're going to have to rely on the weight of your arm. If you're unable to play like that, that means that you're accustomed to pressing the string down by squeezing your fingers together. That's going to cause you to always have a tension in your hand and it's going to make it stiff. I'm going to start by showing how to practice this while sitting down and then move on to show how to practice when you stand up. Before we start though, let's find that heavy left arm and how we can use the weight of the left arm to push down the string instead of squeezing with our fingers and hand. So you can sort of let your hand sink into the string and fingerboard from above and let it hang and let that weight push down the string. Don't use your thumb. So I'm going to start with a slow F major scale without using my thumb. Let your thumb just rest about an inch or so away from the neck. Think of your fingers as hooks that your arm is hanging from, and that you're placing these hooks on the strings. The weight of your resting arm enables your finger to sink into the fingerboard. As soon as you play with another finger, the arm weight moves over to that finger while the other fingers rest. If you feel like you can't play in tune, don't worry. This can be pretty challenging at first. But as soon as you wired your brain not to squeeze with your fingers, you'll start being able to play more fluently. Once you feel you've gotten the hang of it, start playing a little faster, slurring notes, etc. Make sure sometimes to move your thumb to make sure it's loose and isn't cramping. Once this feels comfortable, gently place your thumb on the neck as you will place it when actually playing. Focus on remaining the same feeling when letting the weight of your arm close the notes instead of squeezing with your fingers. If you're used to standing up when you play, you can still play without putting the thumb on the neck, but it's a little harder and also requires you to tilt the bass forward to avoid pressing with your fingers. You're going to have to use the weight of the bass a little to help you close the notes and make it easier for your hand. Remove your thumb from the neck and let the strings rest against your fingers. Tilt the bass forward until the weight of the bass is pushing the string down against your finger. Please note that I don't recommend this much forward tilting of the bass when you're actually playing. This is only for practice. You're going to have to tilt the bass a lot on the lower two strings. And again, I do not recommend playing like this. This is only to help you understand the principle. Once you feel that you can play without your thumb, start playing scales in all keys and increase the speed. And don't worry if it doesn't sound that great. Okay, now on to shifting. I believe that we have to let go of all tension in our hand before we start our shift. No matter how great your technique is, you're still going to have to use your muscles in your hand and fingers when you're playing, and that's fine. But we want to avoid pushing the string down as we shift, as that's just going to add a lot of unnecessary resistance in your shift. The more resistance, the more you're going to have to use force coming from your shoulder and arm, which is going to make your shifts uncontrolled and tight. Add being nervous to that, and it's going to get even worse. So the next exercise I'm going to show aims to remove all tension right before you shift, and to keep your hand and arm loose as you're shifting. We want our fingers to move smoothly and swiftly across the fingerboard without actually ever leaving the string. Next thing I want you to do is something I call the lift and shift exercise. Make a small lift with your fingers so that the string leaves the fingerboard before you move your hand to a new position. This will cause an ugly noise in between your shifts, but it's only for practice. The idea is that you want to release your hand from all tension before you start your shift. A loose hand means controlled shifts that never becomes jerky. Let your thumb remain about an inch away from your neck. Keep it loose and let the weight of the arm sink your finger into the string and fingerboard. Before you shift, let go of all the arm weight and let the string leave the fingerboard. As you can hear, there's now quite a bit of noise in between my shifts. This is good for practice, because it gives you a receipt that your hand is now loose and ready to move to another position. Let your fingers gently slide to the next position, never letting your fingertips lose contact with the string. Right before you reach the note you want to play, you start to let your arm be heavy again and sink into the string. The string should be fully down against the fingerboard when your hand has reached its destination. Make sure that you don't start to squeeze or that you tighten your shoulder. Keep everything loose so that you can adjust your finger to get good intonation. Take as much time as you need before you start your shift. The goal with this exercise is to make it as easy as possible for you to get around the fingerboard when you move your hand. If you keep pushing your fingers into the fingerboard, that will make it harder for your hand to move, and you will have to use more muscle power to get around the bass. Next thing will be to add your thumb back against the neck again. Your thumb should always rest against the neck in its natural state, meaning don't lock your thumb and make it straight. If you look at your hand when it's just resting, you'll see that your thumb is slightly bent at the second joint. That's how you want to keep your thumb while playing as well. You can try locking your thumb like this and wiggle your hand, and you'll notice that your hand, thumb and wrist will be stiff. Do the same thing with the loose and bent thumb and feel how even the joints in your thumb are moving. That's how you want your thumb to be at all times. Let's do the lift and shift exercise again, but this time with your thumb against the neck. Keep it loose and use the weight of your arm, and make sure there's no resistance for your left hand to move when you're shifting. If you feel comfortable enough, reduce the time you take in between your shifts and reduce the noise. The goal is to get really smooth shifts without any noise in between notes whatsoever. Finally, play without making any noise, but maintaining that sense of freedom from not pressing into the fingerboard while shifting. You can even try this with your eyes closed or looking up into the ceiling. only focusing on how your body feels and if you're locking some part of your body. If your shifts feel jerky and uncontrolled, go back to the lift and shift exercise and take as much time as you need to release your hand and arm before shifting. Okay, so let's sum it up. When you sit down, you should use the weight of the arm as much as possible to press the string down and into the fingerboard. When you stand up, you should use the weight of the bass, being tilted just slightly forward to give you that extra weight you need to push the string down. Don't rely on your thumb pressing up against the neck and your fingers down into the fingerboard. Instead, let your arm hang from the finger you're playing with, and the other fingers are resting behind or in front of the playing finger. Once you shift and change to another finger, that arm weight is now going into that finger instead, and the other fingers are at ease and they rest ready to play. Make sure that you're not pushing the other fingers up in the air when they're not playing. That would just add extra tension to your hand. Just keep your fingers ready and loose as if they were resting on a table. I recommend making the scale routine into your daily warm-up. And if it's really hard at first, don't worry, it'll get easier. Just spend 15 to 20 minutes every now and then on this, and start by getting used to playing without your thumb and getting comfortable with that. Remember that your fingertips should never lose contact with the string. They should never go up in the air like this. They always remain on the string before, during, and after you shift. Once you feel that you're getting it right while shifting really slowly, you can start speeding up your shifts and reduce the amount of noise. Your goal is to be so fast in your shifts and smooth that the strings never actually leave the fingerboard and that there's no noise when you shift. Don't focus too hard on it on everything you do. Just devote a certain amount of your practice to this, and then slowly it will integrate into your overall playing. Alright, I hope this has been useful to you, and let it take some time. Good luck with your practice, and if you want more videos like this, please hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you later.